Welcome to the What is Your Legacy podcast. In each episode, we invite leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, and community champions to share their story of their journey. Covering the fields of sport, business, community, entertainment, politics, and philanthropy, we allow our guests to speak openly and share the ups and downs of their journey, and all of the things in between. My name's Trevor Worth, founder and chief executive of Portcullis Legals, and I hope you enjoy what we always call conversations worth having. Our guest on the podcast today is the wonderful Kate Gannon. She's one of the leading IFAs in the country, so I'll try not to use acronyms too much, but Independent Financial Advisor. Kate was actually Chartered Financial Planner of the Year back in 2016 though, and is a real influence in that sector and a great mentor. And we're going to talk all things sunrises, financial planning, careers, mentoring, journeys. Hope you enjoy it. So Kate, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Trav.
We are very honoured as well, aren't we? Because you don't do many or any.
Don't do anything in front of the camera, only ever behind it.
That's usually the best way.
Totally.
Yeah, that's the best way.
So yeah.
Not everybody wants to do these things, do they?
No, it's a very uncomfortable feeling for me.
Is it?
Very, very much.
Yeah,
so.
but we're friends, it's fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if ever I'm going to do it, it'll be with a mate.
That's good. We like that. We like that very much. So what I'd like to cover off, first of all, is your career, how you got into financial services and, what took you into banking originally, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was banking. It's a really random and probably typical story of my entire career, if I'm honest, Trev. So I did, do you remember the youth training scheme?
I do, sadly.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, way back.
So left school with some A-levels, none of which were of use for me anyway, for what I wanted to do. But I enjoyed doing them, which I then told my children was the right thing to do. Just do something you enjoy. So got a YTS at the bank, and after a few years working as a cashier and things like that on probably £4 a day or something random, it was about 26 quid a week or something. I don't know.
Really low.
So I saw people coming and going in the bank that didn't wear a uniform. And there's me in my Brian nylon vests, if you walk too quick, you
catch a light.
Yeah, literally. It was like the worst uniform ever. And saw these people keep coming and going with massive shopping bags, thinking, oh God, they must be on A, good money, and B, they're not wearing this outfit. Right. So I really want to do that. So I spoke to the branch manager at the time, who was really, really supportive. Yeah. And a
male branch
manager. Yeah, he was really supportive. Mr. Wheatley, because we used to have to call them misters at that point as well in the late 80s.
But the banking profession then was totally different to it, isn't it? And it was always seen as a great career, wasn't it? To get a job in a bank was really special. Massive. So that's how I basically saw these people. So it was completely stupid, really, because all I wanted to do was not wear a uniform, and I wanted to work shorter hours, so I thought, which was basically coming and going with shopping bags and seeing people laughing as they came in and left the offices, and I didn't know any more than that. And then that's how I became a financial planner. Just because of that?
Because of that. They then, the branch manager then said, well, you need to go through quite a few different steps. It was a very different regulated world in that time. Yes. I was given 3 big books. I was like, here you go. There's your training. And then all the exams at the time, they were called FPC, Financial Planning Certificate 1, 2 and 3. Yeah. You used to sit in a cold, drafty church or something like that the Personal Finance Society could hire for probably next to nothing, with someone with squeaky legs walking up and down, making sure that you didn't cheat. You know, like when you were at school.
Old school,
as they go up and down with a pencil, and you used to mark off. There were multiple choice questions, and I self-taught. Yeah. And then they trained me and took me under my wing, but they wouldn't look at me until I'd got my 1, 2, 3.
No, which is fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. So I probably started practice about the age of 22.
Did you?
Doing mortgages and life assurance. And
that's quite young, isn't it? It's still quite young to be advising on big world things, you know.
Oh, yeah, it was quite scary. And I was still living in the Midlands at the time, which is where I'm from. So they then gave me as many branches in random places as they possibly could. So, yeah, I was travelling all over the place in my
and they'd line up the appointments, you go and see the clients, off you go. Or
absolutely.
Customers of the bank.
Yeah. Customers of the bank, doing their mortgages. And, that was it. That was my route.
Yeah.
My route into the crazy world of financial planning. And the reason I found out many years later that all these people were walking in with big bags was because they didn't have a life outside of work. And as they're passing a shop, that was when they would get their food or their clothes or their shoes or whatever, because there was no time. So it was like an 18-hour a day.
That's interesting.
Job.
Yeah.
So my thought process that it was going to be really easy and just giggling was pretty much the same analogy as you're looking at a swan, isn't it? Where they look like they're drifting, but underneath.
Yeah, so graceful above the water. And
yeah. And it's exactly the same in my world.
In that world. You touched on something as you were discussing the exams there. I mean, the regulated world now for financial services is huge, isn't it?
It's massive.
It's to me, from the outside looking in, it's more of a profession now than it's ever been, and rightly so.
Yeah, I'm actually a massive advocate of never using the word industry. If someone uses the word industry, I close them down. I work in a profession, not an industry.
I'm glad I said that.
Yeah. Otherwise, it closed you right down.
Yes, you would have. Yeah, just swipe me across the. But I think I've been very fortunate. My whole career, I've worked with hundreds of IFAs and mortgage brokers and most of those people are fantastic people, aren't they? They work very hard. They're committed to their customers and all the rest of it. But it needed that because I think it was the Retail Distribution Bureau, wasn't it? 2012.
Yeah, RDR was when they then made it more regulated. So then instead of just having the 3 basic exams, you then had to have it's basically 6 exams now. But it was that they've morphed over the years. So you then had to have a diploma in financial planning to become a financial advisor. Yeah. And then if you want to be a financial planner, you have to have chartered or fellow.
Yes.
Which
you are.
Exams.
Yeah, which you are. Yeah. There you go.
Got them badges.
Get to the top, isn't it? And the thing I always find interesting is you look back to, say, the 80s, late 80s, and lots of fact finds, as they were called then. I don't know if they still are, but done on the back of a fag packet. Lots of endowment type products sold. It was that sort of world, wasn't it? And it's come on leaps and bounds, and it's good to see because clients can identify who the good people are, can't they, by their specialisms? I'd like to think
so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But as we both know, most business, I guess we both get, is lots of personal recommendations, isn't it?
That's the only way my practice works. We don't advertise at all. It's literally personal recommendations. We're really, really fortunate. If we never took anyone new on again, that would be absolutely fine. So we can go in and just see if we can help. And if we can't help, there's no point. No. So we'll signpost to people to where they.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't know, you'll pass on to the right person. Aren't you? I think as well with the financial services world, it's been quite a bit like banking, I would guess, many moons ago. Very male dominated, and it's great to see lots of females coming up through the ranks. And I know you're uncomfortable with me saying this, probably knowing you, but you've been one of those pioneers that's helped break the mold because. Like in the law profession, you've got too many pinstriped, suited, grey old men, and those things are being shattered now, which is great. Yeah. And I've got to say that was daughters of my own, so I think it's good to see, and it's about the person, isn't it?
Totally. I came up through the ranks in the bank, through into private banking, where you've got the man and the bowler hat and on the front door, and you've got. I had to always wear a suit and a certain height of heel, and everything was very much the unwritten requirement. Obviously, they could never put that in writing, but you kind of knew where you had to pitch yourself in that world. So when I left private banking and went alone, I made a massive decision that what you see is what you get. Yeah. So I'll go out in my trainers to see someone, and people want it real. So, and if they don't want it real, they're probably not for me. So it's very much you get what you're given.
Yes. And you get to a place where, you can select who you want to work with, can you? As much as the client
And they
can.
select me too.
And that's fine, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a good meeting of minds, and it's a cultural thing, I think. Like I said, people feel comfortable with you. Obviously, I've been out on appointments with you before, and you have that empathy, that fun with them. They feel very relaxed, and you don't always get that, do you?
No, there are awkward times. I've had a few awkward times in my career, and I remember one area director telling me to manage silence better. So I know, right, rude.
That is rude.
So in one case, he was like, you actually need to ask a question sometimes and shut up and let the person answer it. Because I do struggle if someone sort of like goes inward to think, you kind of like, oh, have I offended? Have I? So I try and establish. But once I did do that, and I think I counted to what felt like about a year in my head, but it was probably about 20 seconds before the person the other side of the table answered. But then when they did answer, they came with the right answer, and they'd given it real due consideration. So yeah.
And it's a skill, isn't it? Between trying to coax things out of people, but let them make their own decisions based on the information you've given them.
Absolutely.
The one thing I would like to talk to you about is Wembley Stadium. Now, I've never played there. I mean, you've never played there either, have you? But tell me about that, because, you've described the journey from how you sort of fell into banking, as it were, and then the financial services side. And to get to that stage where you're recognised as the... I know, but these things have got to be said, haven't they? Chartered Financial Planner of the Year, that's huge.
It was massive. You know me well enough now, Trev, and that's why this is very uncomfortable for me to be in front of a camera. I shy away from everything, and I have massive imposter syndrome. I'm always a big believer in, like, I've obviously just got where I've got with my profession through luck. I've obviously sat the exams, of which, are really, really hard. But I think I wanted to prove to myself I was worthy, and it's never about anyone else. I obviously care what other people think. I think anyone sat here that does say that they don't care what anyone thinks is totally wrong. But I think being, a woman at the time, I was a single mum in the profession that I'm in. I needed to prove my worth. So once I got to Chartered and Fellowship, which is a steady row of exams, and I should add at this point, and I did publicly say this in front of some people many years ago, it took me 6 attempts to get the one mandatory exam to become chartered.
Did it?
6 attempts. I kept failing. I kept going in and failing and failing and failing. So while I was doing that, I was then doing other exams to get me to fellow, so that I didn't feel a complete failure all the time. And it's really hard to keep getting yourself up once you've kept failing. And I don't know what I was doing wrong, but I was completely, So when I became chartered, I became fellow at the same time, which is a secondary level.
Yeah.
And you have to have 2 years practicing as a financial advisor in our world to be able to use the word chartered. So it's not just a case of I've got the exams, I've now got the badge, the cap, and I can do it. You have to be able to walk the walk, and do it all. So when I did that, you then go up to London for a ceremony, cap and gown, blah-de-blah-de-blah. And I went with my husband. We just got married at that point. And it was a massive, massive achievement for me, because he knew how hard I had to get to that point. Yeah. And there was this guy who was presenting and having a chat to the whole room of about, I don't know, there was 200-300 of us that had all got chartered in that year. Yeah. And you go to the one ceremony, well, there's 2 ceremonies a year, but you go up and you get your scroll and everything else. And he presented, and he was Chartered Financial Planner of the Year 2013. Right. Robin, his name is. And I call him my superhero. And I do still call him my superhero. So he stood on the stage and he basically said about his journey and about what he'd achieved and his practice. And that his wife bakes cookies all the time for his clients. So Karen's cookies, they're called. Right. And I'm like, oh, I really like that. That's just good like, idea. And he's a proper Brummie, although he'll kill me for that because I think it's West Midlands, not Brummie.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat there waiting to get my scroll and everything else, and I'm like, that's my next target. Forget now, because I've done that.
Excellent.
So my next target is to be a Robin, you know, is to be his Batman, if you like, to his Robin and everything else. So, and at the end of the ceremony, he's like milling around, you've got a glass of fizz and everything else. And I went up to him and I went, I'm going to be you. And he's like, okay, all right then. And I thought, yeah, probably everybody says that. And it looked really, really stupid. So then I put myself forward to start the process to become Chartered Financial Planner of the Year, because just doing the next bit, which just wasn't enough for me. I needed to prove to me that I was still worthy. So the process to become Chartered Financial Planner of the Year isn't an easy one.
No.
You have to prove that you've done things for charity, that you've done things in other forms. You have to prove that you're worthy of that title and that you're going to put back into the profession and help. And then you have to sit some exams and some.
Do you?
Yeah, you get sent like a case study of Mr. and Mrs. Miggins have got this, and this, and they chuck all these curveballs in and everything else.
That you've got to pick up on. That's interesting.
And then if you get past all of those stages, and I failed at the first hurdle. I failed at my application the first time. The second time I got the case study, and I failed at that.
Right.
And then third time, that's the bit. So it's literally like you're sat in Dragon's Den.
Oh, really?
You've got a board of people and they're going to question you on your everything.
Yeah.
You don't know what they're going to question you on. So you're on the train going up to London while I was.
Yeah.
Reading absolutely everything I could possibly read about just noise, financial noise, I always call it. It's just like blurb. And I completely and utterly filled my head full of it all at the same time, and then went up there and they asked me nothing like that at all, and I was like, God.
But at least you were prepared.
But at least I knew it for the future.
Yeah.
So, and it was on my third attempt, so in 2016-17, that I then went to Wembley.
Yes.
I did. I went to Wembley and I got given the title. Yeah. You're sat at a table, you have the dinner, everybody else, it's a massive awards ceremony because there's lots of other things that you can put yourself forward for. I ignored all of those and went straight for the top
prize.
One. Yeah. Like, it's just the way I am. I'm just a complete and utter lunatic. And then we're sat at a table and I'm sat there with the other three potential candidates and we're all having to make small talk for the entire dinner. And I'm like,
the Oscars when they pan on somebody who's just lost.
Literally. It's like, and then they called my name out, and then my husband says that I just sat there, and I didn't actually react because I think I probably thought, no, that wasn't me. That was the loser or something, you know.
Yeah.
So totally stunned. But and then after that, I made a point of giving back. So I've been mentoring and using the title properly. Although you pass it on to somebody else, another worthy person, you're in this little niche club, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that I could pick up on. But we'll start in reverse, really. That thing about the mentoring, you do an awful lot of that, don't you? Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes it's done subconsciously as well, isn't it? It's not always, formalised. And that, this podcast is called What is Your Legacy? That's part of your legacy, isn't it, going forward?
Trying to give back, because in my day when I did this, most financial planners of my era, and I've been doing it for 35 years, scarily now, most people are, we came up through the banks where there was training, where there was mentoring, where there was support, where we had a basic salary to be able to pay our mortgages and look after our families. There isn't really that there anymore.
No.
So people need to reach out. Unless they're very lucky to get into a large organisation, they need to reach out to people to give pro bono time to help. Yeah. So that's absolutely what I do try and do.
That's good. I think as well, it's quite daunting as well if you go into, especially the self-employed world. in a service industry, because you've just got to try and talk to everyone, and to lean on people who've been through all that type of challenge, is a big thing. But I think coming from the bank assurance background is a big help, isn't it? Because like you said, you've had that grounding. You know a lot of people. There's a lot of contacts. You know clients. And as we all know, people buy you eventually, don't they?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Or chuck me out.
It's because there's that saying about it's not always about what you do; it's who you are. And that's, I think, if you carry that with you, people always buy into you, don't they?
You've just got to be you.
Authentic.
And, you've got to be the real you. The people, when you talk to them, are really nervous, mainly, when they first come to talk to someone about their finances. They probably feel that they're going to be judged in one way, shape or form, or they don't know what to do. And my job isn't to make someone rich. My job is not to do that. And I will categorically say, some financial planners think that all they're trying to do is to create wealth for someone. That's their view. My job isn't to make someone's wealthy. My job is to keep them wealthy. There is a big difference. So I tend not to work with people on a building up of wealth basis, but people that are entrepreneurs or people that are nearing retirement. That's the niche that I find that I'm better off working in.
That's good. But also, what is rich?
Well, exactly.
We all perceive it in different ways, don't we? Is it that life balance?
Yeah.
Is it peace of mind? Is it? There's all different things that go with it, isn't it? And,
rich is happy.
Yeah,
Trev.
it is.
That's all it is. Because I've got so many people I look after with millions and millions and millions, but are they happy? No, not necessarily. No. Rich is just to go home and be happy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? I always think with financial planning as well, it's about trying to give you choices going forward, isn't it? And trying to read things ahead of the curve,
Absolutely, yeah.
Which, when we see clients and they talk about what they've got and what they've done, I always talk to them about, look forward. What do you want to leave behind? Because that's my side of work.
What's your legacy?
Legacy, exactly. But it is about things like engaging with your community and
definitely
being a good person and doing things for the right reasons and all that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, two other things you raised there. One is your tenacity to make sure that you weren't ever going to fail, were you? I mean, we know people always quit, don't they?
I nearly did. I can't lie. There were several gin nights and.
Oh, was there?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not stopped.
No, that still hasn't stopped. No, but there was quite a few times where I would have been like, this. I probably need to knock this on the head now and just stick at where I am. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. But at the same point, it's not me. I then pick myself up the next morning and go, absolutely not, actually. I'm going to do it again and go for it.
And the one that really shocks me, because I know you sort of shun the limelight. You don't need to be doing all that, do you? But that thing about imposter syndrome, and I know it's there for a lot of people in various guises, but I really struggle with that with you. Because you're such a bright, bubbly,
My friend, she's recently retired from financial planning in Wales, she always says I'm the most confident person in the room. So, and you just paint it on because you go into, I call it work mode. My husband says, stop going into work mode on me. Because sometimes I'll do that and I'll be able to work a room because I've gone into work mode. But I'm actually really quite shy.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It is, sometimes it feels like you're on stage, doesn't it? Like the curtains are open and off you go.
But if you think about financial planning and probably your world as well, we are there to ask questions and open up a forum for someone to tell us about them. But we're not there to tell them about us. They will find out bits about us in the journey with them, but we're not there to go, oh, my name's Trevor and I've done this, and this. Because the limelight's on them.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'm probably comfortable in that role.
I think with the internet now, they find everything about before you get. Do you ever get that thing where you turn up and clients start telling you things about you, and you're going, "I didn't know that," or "I'd forgotten that," and which is quite nice. But you're right, the light is on them. It's there. They've got the challenges or the opportunities, haven't they? We're there to try and help them through that. You know. One thing you said to me, that we share stories, don't we, about clients?
We do.
And obviously, we never talk names, but that one you mentioned about the sunrise and the sunset. Talk me through that, because I thought that was incredible.
This is, I went to a funeral yesterday with my business manager, Lucy, and we
love Lucy, by the way.
Lucy, Lucy's my absolute rock. I can't work without her. So, but yeah, we went to a funeral rest yesterday for someone that I've looked after for 25 years. And you know how someone stands up and they talk about the individual and everything else. Yeah. And this individual was totally inspirational. He was a teacher, and he retired many years ago, and was very practical. Loved to go and wild swim every morning before it was a thing. And in the conversations that I've had with him in the past, and it was reiterated again yesterday, he never used to watch the sunset. So because it was always, that was an end to something, and he never believed in an end to anything. He was always a very cups half full.
Yeah, glass half full. Yeah.
All of that sort of thing. So, but every single morning, he would get up, no matter what the weather, no matter what the time of year, and walk down to the beach, excuse me, and watch the sun rise, because that was a new dawn, a new opportunity, and a new day to get things right and to achieve whatever he wanted to achieve that day. And it wasn't financial for him. It was all about his family, his children, his everything else. And I really took that away with me yesterday, and I pondered on it for a good few hours last night, because you kind of go, yeah, absolutely. So everyone kind of does this romanticizing of, oh, we must watch the sunset and everything else. But how often do we get and watch the sunrise?
Don't we?
Unless you're in the Sahara Desert and you do it once, which I did do last year.
Yes.
Which was a tick. But you don't, do you? You watch a sunset. No. But actually, when you spin it around, it's all about the opportunities that life gives, not the end of the day.
Very true.
So I really love that.
Yeah, I love that. It's a very positive spin, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna work on that, because obviously, yesterday it reminded me of it, and I thought, I'm gonna. Yeah,
it's really nice.
Gonna work on that.
I love stories like that, and moments you remember about people, don't you? And,
totally.
Because you can look at any job, and it's about the technical side of doing the job well, but I think that's always a given, isn't it? It's all the soft things around it that make the experience better, hopefully, for the clients and also for yourself,
Yeah, it's like anybody that does anything sporty or whatever else. If you have a passion for something, it's not work, is it? Isn't it? If you enjoy something, you've never worked a day in your life or something like that. Yeah. And I know that's how you feel about your world, and that's how I feel about mine. Yes, you have to get over the regulatory exams, the tick boxes and everything else. But my job is to empower people, and who wouldn't want to do that? Who wouldn't want to be able to go, actually, all those plans that you had in place, we can do that a few years early. So go and give your notice then and go and retire.
Absolutely, yeah.
And do the things you want to do.
And that what I think is great about financial advice, because we meet a lot of people who are, more mature in years, and they think they can't retire, don't they? They think they can't do all these things, and yet when they take advice, that's where it's shown to them, of course you can. This is what's possible.
We cash flow every single person that we look at. So when they come in with usually it's with a big bag of stuff that they've collated over like 10, 20 years of millions of pension schemes. And then I'll say, well, look, I'll just put that to one side for a minute. Tell me what you want. Ignore all that. I call it noise, financial noise. It's all noise. Yes, we all need it, but it's noise. So my job is to remove that noise and make things simple. So it's like, just put that all to one side, and now tell me what you want. What do you see your future? Where do you want to be? Or do you want to achieve something now or in 5 years? But life and goals change, Trev. And so every year we review that. We sit back down and we go, that you said last year. Well, let's just check that's still my understanding and your understanding. And then we run the stats again. Yeah. Because we might have had a good year, they might have had a bad year, they might have won the lottery or something like that,
It's an ever-moving feast,
ever-moving thing,
It always is,
So, and it's so important to sit down with your financial planner, no matter where you are on your journey in finance. And most people, in my view, you should start when you start school or start work or whatever else. Yeah. And the Personal Finance Society, who I work alongside on a pro bono basis with, we go to schools and we try and promote into the schools. And if we can help the children, then we can maybe help the parents as well, because the children go home, don't they? And they go... we talk about most kids don't know what a credit card is against a debit card, or this blooming Kalana Pay that you can buy things over 0%, and then they get into debt. And
yeah, they do. And what's a mortgage? What actually is it?
I don't know.
I know you don't do mortgages, but you know people who do, so that's a good thing.
I know people that do. I pass them over.
And we look at the demographics of people who watch these podcasts, and they tend to be in their 30s or 40s. So if you were talking to someone now of that age group, what would you say to them? What should they be looking to do? Because they've probably got mortgages. They might have children, working hard. What sort of things should they be thinking about?
They should really review their income and outgoings. So you can control both. You can literally control both. And I'm a massive believer in there's opportunities for everybody in no matter what you're doing, whether it's you're a carpenter, a cleaner, a bank manager, whatever it is, we've all got opportunities. And whatever income you get in, and then you have all your expenditure, you've got your fixed expenditures, your mortgage, your council tax, your car and everything else. But you need to really consider, so for instance, I'm probably best off saying it as a story. There was a chap that came in, and this is like 15 years ago when I was still in banking, in retail banking, before I even went to private banking. And every morning he went to Costa Coffee for a latte and a croissant, picked it up, drove into work, decided because he was late picking up, because he would be late because he went and got his Costa Coffee and his whatever else. There were other brands of coffee around.
Yes, absolutely.
He then had to park closer to the office where he worked, which was a higher car park charge, and then walk into work and blah, blah, blah. So I broke his day down for him when he came in to see me. So he'd got his big bag of pensions, and he just thought that was all I was going to talk about. Yeah. But before cash flow modelling was a thing, which it wasn't at that point, I'm like, well, how much do you spend on your latte and your muffin or croissant or whatever it is? And how much extra is that car park? And I think it was £8 a day back then.
So on its own, that's a small thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So, you're then talking, £40 net a week. So £40 net a week for a basic rate taxpayer is £50 a week.
Right.
£50. You know where I'm going with
I know where you're going.
£50 a week. Times that by 52 weeks of the year. Blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. Anyway, we then decided to readdress his spending habits. Right. And he bought a coffee machine from home with a mug like this.
Yeah.
And he used to just go and buy the
sachets or whatever.
Yeah, sachet and do whatever else. So he took a coffee in his car to work every morning like this. Yeah. And then he had time to park in the car park further away that was free and walk into work and walk out again.
Which is so simple, but...
And he came back to me sort of 6-8 months ago, and he retired 5 years early.
Wow.
Simply
That's
because
amazing.
he didn't waste his money on his latte and da-da-da-da-da. And it's easy changes in your life. And I'm not saying, because I'm the world's worst, do not get me wrong. If I'm in a bar and I see a cheap gin and an expensive gin, I'm going to go for the expensive gin.
That doesn't surprise me.
So I'm not I can't say I'm completely preachy, because I'm really not.
No.
But there are small changes you can make to get to the goals that you want to achieve. And, I got a photo of his pint of beer while he was in Spain with his wife. Fantastic. And then he came back and bought me a blooming pen. With a little, I don't know, like a squiggly wizard or a lizard or something on it. I don't know. And he was like, cheers, Kate.
There you go. That's good.
But actually, that's gone in my little box of memories. I love that.
Nice. Yeah. And like I said, that's a small change, but it's incremental, isn't it? All these little things. And I guess once somebody's pointed that out to you, you start thinking in a different way.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it's about.
And so my job is not rocket science. It's really, really not rocket science. I'm a leader of an orchestra is all I am. And I direct people to you when they need estate planning. I direct them to another lady if they need, like mortgage advice or lending, or back to their bank if they need cash situations. So, and I will just hand back, to do the right thing.
Yeah. And it's important to know people who are good in their space and
totally. But the pride I took in that and amazing. My pen.
Yeah, exactly.
With my lizard on it.
So the thing about financial services, again, very similar to law, probably any of the professions, accountancy or whatever, it's seen in that quite grey way, as we touched on earlier. What sort of changes would you like to see in the sector that could make people feel, A, it's more accessible to have a career in that or build a business, but also from the client's perspective that not everyone's an ogre, are they? And not everyone's difficult and quite stuffed shirts, you know.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to see that could change people's perception of it?
I think in financial planning that's already happening. There is a movement called Next Gen. So I'm probably promoting them a little bit here, but that's Next Gen, and they are for the sort of the age range 20 to 35 that are coming up through the financial services world. And they do masses of podcasts and everything else because they're going to literally kill me now because I haven't ever done one of them.
There you go.
But they're all about how to widen the audience so that people can see that we are actually human beings. Actual human beings, yeah. And, you know, we're not all covered in hair or something weird. We are real people and we go out and have fun. So they are really good at promoting it to that marketplace. And then obviously through the Personal Finance Society, I'm on their board of practitioners to try and to change the mindset of financial planning, which is a role that I've took on a voluntary basis. And that's where we go out and promote schools. We're now on the Duke of Edinburgh scheme. So the children, when they do Duke of Edinburgh, you know, you have to do that mandatory bit of stuff. Well, that can be financial planning now. And we can help and mentor. Yeah, massive.
And you must love that.
I love it. I haven't got as massively involved in it as I want to because I've been doing a lot further away from that. But I do intend to go back to it in the not too distant future and go back to the schools. We play board games, and the kids, when we go to the schools, they're like, board games? Well, why? Everyone plays, you know, like on the iPhones. But we're trying to get people to talk, Trev.
Right, that's good.
We're trying to remove the tablet. We're trying to remove the barriers. And if you have to sit around a table and talk, just like if you, at the end of the day, when your family are all together and you have your dinner together and put your phones to one side and talk face to face. Yeah,
it's very important.
That's what financial planning is all about. Yeah. And also, you know, your world as well. We need to talk.
Yes.
Because you learn so much using two of these and one of these.
You do, absolutely. And I think the problem with modern society is people don't, you know, we've got all the most advanced communication tools we've ever had, but we don't use the basic ones that are like I said, ears and mouth. And,
makes me really sad when I go out and I see a couple sat there just on their phones.
Oh, I know. You see it in restaurants all the time, don't you? They're on their phones, the children are on the phones, and you think, what is that family moment? Because it's just... And it's stuff that can be done anytime, and all that. It's just be in the moment, I guess, isn't it?
Totally.
And we all talk about it.
And it's usually not true what they're watching anyway, because it's usually make-believe, isn't it, on Instagram and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
I just honestly believe that, you know, we talked earlier about technical skills and knowledge and qualifications, and they are vital, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Because you're evidence into other people that you know what you're talking about. But it is the soft skills that really make a difference in life, and you know, when you get feedback off clients that you clearly have, where you feel you've had some impact because they're saying this happened, that happened, whatever that is, sometimes that's better than the financial reward, isn't it? Because
massively.
If the financial reward is what you're in it for, you're in it for the wrong reasons, aren't you? It's help people.
Yeah, that's totally not what we're in it for, and. Because you do deal with people with an awful lot of wealth, you have to be able to compartmentalize that. Mm. And I probably learnt that very early on in my career when I was having to load up cash in cash machines at the bank and things like that. It's not real. It's a number. So it's a very emotive number, and people, obviously you can't live without money or health or anything else. But it's not real. So I never feel jealous by anyone's wealth, which is a really strong thing that a financial planner has to have. You can't look at it and think, oh, you can aspire to want to have that. That's very different to being jealous of something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's that difference between jealousy and envy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could be envious of someone because you'd like to aspire to that. Jealousy is that horrible, not great
nasty.
quality.
It's a nasty quality.
It's a negative one, isn't it?
Totally. We don't do negative.
No. sunrise and sunset. It's that comparison.
Exactly. It's the sunrise trap.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest barrier I get when I talk to clients and you clearly see they need financial advice is they talk about the cost. They talk about the fees. They talk about somebody turning up in a flash motor. They talk about all these things, which is all the negative connotation. And I know different, don't I? Because I know a lot of
I don't drive a flash motor.
No, you don't. You don't.
You've got a dog car.
But again, it's that perception, isn't it? And it's such a shame because when you can overcome those sorts of barriers that are there and you get them in front of good people, the world changes for them, doesn't it?
Totally. And so when I think it's with every practice, not just ours, our first initial meeting is completely free of charge. It's at our expense to know if we can help you and if you need us, and to work out boundaries and things like that. So I don't know of any practice that isn't the case.
No.
So, and also I'm a massive advocate, if someone is a bit jittery about talking to a financial planner, go and see a few, because we're all very different about doing the same job. You're going to have the people that are very different to me and work very structured. Well, I do work structurally. We all follow a structure. However, I do it in a very conversational, chatty type way. And that doesn't suit some people, and you have to respect that.
You do, yeah.
So go and interview us. Have a feel around and see who you like and who you don't like.
Because not everyone fits, do they? Not everyone.
No, and we all have different propositions.
Yes, absolutely, and that's what keeps the market interesting, isn't it?
Totally.
And the opportunities there. But the one thing that we all read about is the advent of AI and the robots and all the rest of it. And obviously, we're already embracing elements of that in our everyday work, aren't we? But there's still going to be a need for face-to-face advice, surely.
Yeah, massive.
But is it? Do you think it's like a generational thing? Do you think?
Yeah, and I think AI is probably a very good thing for the startup. For instance, if you, I don't know, I'm just going to hypothetically, you leave school at 18, you could use AI up until you've built a portfolio up to so much. But then AI doesn't do the soft facts. It just does the hard data. So we probably, again, like you, we have hard facts and soft facts. Hard facts are name, address, date of birth, how much can you save each month, da-da-da-da-da. But the soft facts are why. How does that make you feel? A computer can't do that.
No, it's that reasoning, isn't it?
Yeah, a computer can't explain to you the ins and outs of how something works. It will give you the data and you have to read it, whereas I can interpret it. And over the years, and I know because I've sat and watched you work as well, we learn to read how a client will interact with us. Mm-hmm. We know what level of data they need to be able to justify in their head that that's the right or the wrong thing. You will put everything down in written format as well, but I can then talk to them in such a way that hits what they need to hear.
Yes.
And then you give them the data and then come back and deal with the issue if it needs dealing with.
Yeah.
So AI will never do that, but it has its place. It definitely has its place because financial planning isn't cheap, as you said.
No.
I've got 35 years experience, so I'd like to think that I'm worth what I'm being, paid to do. But when you pay a fee to a financial planner, you're not just paying for their flash car or whatever it is that you may perceive that they have. And perception is very different to reality, as we all know.
Yeah.
You're paying for all the other things that we have to do. We have to have indemnity insurance. We have to have back office systems. We have to be able to store that information for years and years and years, 7 years of data once we've stopped working with you, There are all those things that you've got to build into that cost.
No one sees all that, though, do they?
No. It's the analogy of the swan. So I'm going to swan in my whatever it is that, I'm driving.
Yeah.
But it isn't really that, is it?
I tell you, I did see a few years ago, and I thought it really makes it clear to clients is when there was like a pie chart of all the costs that have to go out before a financial advisor will make a living, and the costs are huge, like, as with any business, isn't it?
Massive.
Especially compliance and all those issues, and insurance.
Yeah.
It's insurance I know, but
But
I think generally people want to have an advisor because they want to have a relationship, because that's what it's about, really, isn't it? And finding them the best way always is be an advocate for the person you've worked with and say good things if they're good. That is, refer them on, because the whole world is built on referrals. Again, we touched on this earlier, and your skill set is being that person, isn't it? And that's not always been the case with financial advice I meet, and like you said, we're all different, aren't we? We've all got different styles.
Very different,
and it's it's a broad church that we can all work under. But I always enjoy meeting with you. I always enjoy going out on calls with you, and some of the ridiculous stories we cannot talk about on here, we'll save for another day, I think.
Oh God, that one's going to my
grave.
You
know the one. There's one in particular, isn't there? But we can't talk about that. But it's a people thing, isn't it?
Massively.
And I just wish the professions at times just had a softer feel about it. Because more people would be engaged with it as a career or a business opportunity, but also on the advice side,
Yeah. I mean, like, as I say, there's a wide range of the different kinds of financial planners, financial advisors that you can go and see, and different approaches that people take. And it's not a one size fits all, which is what I love about my profession, is that you've got people that are multi-tied or tied to advisory companies or whatever else. I'm purely independent, and I'm a massive advocate of pure and true independence.
What made you go on your own and independent? What was that catalyst, really?
Must have been crazy.
Or how long have we got?
So I was going to say, how long's a piece of string? So why did I go on my own? I went on my own because I didn't feel that anyone else was delivering it in the way I wanted it to be delivered. So in 2020, Themis Wealth Management was born, which was Themis is the goddess of pragmatism, balancing act, all of the things that are all important values to me and the team. So we went independent because we went on our own because we wanted to deliver things in a more fun, chatty type way, really.
You've definitely done that.
But crazy. But with a very strong message that we are compliant, we will follow a process. And on our website, you can see the process that we will follow. And it is a fixed process, however, with a chatty style. Yeah. And then we went independent because, why wouldn't, if I want to buy a pair of shoes or a handbag or something, I'll shop around.
Yeah.
And if I know the brand that I want, I'll still shop around because I want to make sure I get the best deal.
Yeah, best value, yeah.
So why wouldn't I want to go to someone that will do all that for me? Because fundamentally, we're quite lazy as humans, aren't we? If you can pay someone to do that shopping around and they can come back and prove to me that they've done that shopping around, then happy days.
That's a win, isn't it?
So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it.
Because it's a big step, isn't it? It's a huge step.
Terrifying.
But it's the right step. It's the right step.
Yeah, it is terrifying, though.
What about, where do you see the sector heading? Because, with the closure of so many banks, branches, all those things, and people doing a lot of things online, as we said earlier. There'll always be a need for face-to-face, I think. Yeah. Because certain people want to pay for that, don't they? And engage with that. Do you see the sector changing massively in the next decade, or?
I think banking as a whole has already morphed into something completely different, whereas they used to have the bolt-on services such as financial advice and things like that. They still do lending because that's obviously a big revenue for them. But most banks now, everything's on an app. They do tend to, in Cornwall definitely, the bank that I used to work for has shrunk. But they do still have face-to-face booths in shared offices and things.
Yeah, isn't there's some movement towards hubs, isn't it?
Yeah, banking hubs. So, and then you can obviously access banks through post offices and things like that. Yeah. So so that's the way that's going to go. As for financial planning, I'd like to see it morph into the two streams, really.
Yeah.
So keep face to face, but also have it where it's lower cost for people that can't necessarily afford it. Yeah. And one of the things that I'm potentially working towards is as an initiative where you can have a light touch financial advice planning where you don't pay, you pay a fixed fee and someone guides you. but they don't give you financial advice. It's very early days, and I don't know how that would fit with regulators or anything like that. But I've been talking to a colleague who runs a practice also in Cornwall, and we do believe that financial planning is expensive, but it is needed by lots of people. But it's how we would be able to deliver that, given our hidden costs that the consumer doesn't see.
You're right. It should be access for all, shouldn't it?
Absolutely.
And, but trying to monetize that in the right way so it's affordable and you at least cover your costs is a good thing. Well, Kate, I'm very honoured that you chose us to do a podcast with. Your first one. It's been great. You're one of those people that every time we see each other, I always go away with a smile on my face, which is always a good thing because it's and I better clarify that. It's just good to be around positive people, isn't it? And,
laughing with or laughing at them.
Well, it's always weird, isn't it? It's weird. But thank you so much for your time today.
No, it's been great. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed it. Wouldn't do bad.
Yeah, I'm still really scared.
Thank you.
Thank you.